Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another stream of Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Monday, April 27th. We're starting at 10 Central in the United States, and that's probably a mistake, as I'm looking at the internet having trouble. It seems like it might be clearing up now, but there is certainly going to have to be some reconsideration as I try to think about when I should stream if there are going to be just a lot of people still teleconferencing. I guess I was streaming early enough before 6-7 Central Time. Probably put it a little too early for some people. But also, inherently, you have this problem as a YouTube content creator. You want to be streaming when people would be online. When people are online is when the network is at its worst. So it's a catch-22 scenario. Let's look at the store. As for the accountability section, which we'll try to go through very quickly here, I played some of Castle Crashers, which is such an abbreviated hack and slash game with RPG elements that really doing one level is very, very similar to doing a different level. And I'm playing in 1 hour segments just because of that. There's literally nothing to say. It's a lot of button mashing with very little success or reward. Here we have a new workshop that I guess we need to do, so we can look at this. It's not terrible, but it does have a weird experience that's, I don't think, very thought out, because there have been several times in Castle Crashers while I'm playing it as a single player game mode where I've just died and then had to start the whole level all over again. And the levels aren't full of hundreds of enemies. Instead, they are usually 5 segments of groups of like 5 enemies, usually all 5 of those enemies being the exact same enemies over and over again. And then you'll maybe get a boss enemy in the middle, or maybe a sub-boss and then a boss. There's a lot of different lands in both of these decks, and it seems to me like these are attempts at teaching companion cards. Let's see. There was also a pack I thought I got. I guess maybe I already opened that pack. But there was a play, like, Friday Night Magic FNM and then AT and then HOME, all one word, gives a code out for a packet, and it gives you something, so I'll just mention that. Let's see, just click here, just like this. Let's play. Let's hop into that. So while I think playing Castle Crashers with a friend, at least one friend, if not 4 split screen co-op friends, is probably a really good experience, playing it solo, the game does not feel like it's 100% balanced for solo play. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to do it that way. And it kind of is just a nice little reminder as to, for myself, as far as why I don't play a lot of the Call of Duty style games that literally just require you to have a ridiculous amount of... I guess I'll hold on to this. What does this one do? Spell cost X less, where X is the greater power among your creatures you control. So in theory, if I have a 7 attack, there was a free mulligan apparently. So yeah, it is a nice little reminder, and I'm gonna probably be a little bit I guess, for lack of a better term, unenthused with the game by the time I'm done with it, and I seriously doubt I'll want to spend the extra energy to try and go back and play Castle Crashers 3 more times with the 3 different characters just to level them up, because I seriously doubt there's a way to just power level the other characters, and there's really no reason to do that, particularly when you beat arenas, which I did beat one of the arenas. You unlock other characters, which then just confuses the issue even more. I think there's probably a lack of just kind of direct understanding as to what makes characters interesting, or just a lack of ability to promote the characters in Castle Crashers, even to the point where the Castle Crashers 2 was never made, as far as I know. If it was made, it was not advertised at all, and you'd think there would be. It feels like they wanted something like Angry Birds, and Castle Crashers may have been even out before Angry Birds, but the Angry Birds, each one of those Angry Birds has a distinctively different color and shape and sound effect and abilities, where the Castle Crasher characters, as far as I can tell, at the beginning of your upkeep, if your opponent controls no permanents with bounty counters on them, put bounty counter on the target creature. Planeswalkers, whenever a permanent opponent controls with a bounty counter on it dies, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Well, I mean, that's an interesting commander card. And nothing really is stopping me from not attacking, because he'll either defend. Well, actually, this guy has first strike. There was not a good reason for him not to defend. So yeah, the actions and the animations in Castle Crashers are kind of repetitive. It's a lot of hitting X. It's a lot of hitting A over and over again, with getting the same results, but not really enjoying it. Every single enemy is way too strong. They have way too much health. You can't one-hit kill anything, it seems, even if you're at max level. The game probably could have done with a prestige system. Let's see. Well, this has haste. So do we want to play that? Or do we want to do this?
You want to fight me? That's precious.
Whenever you cast your next creature spell this turn, search your library for a creature with lower converted mana cost. Put it onto the battlefield. Interesting. And do we want a 3/3 with reach, trample, or vigilance? Reach, I guess.
I call, and Ikoria answers.
And see, this is a phoenix, so it would come back to the field, which makes it a nice commander. The other thing I did besides playing Castle Crashers, which is basically all I'm going to be doing for probably the next week, on top of streaming Magic on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, is uploading videos. And I also took some extra time this weekend to take a break, take a weekend off somewhat, and watch the Amazon Prime original series The Tick, which is way more adult than
That's it. I'm done.
than the cartoon, and it kind of feels, I like it, but it kind of feels like you're getting a Shakespeare on Ice experience instead of Shakespeare. Really, it feels like there was a great argument to make that that the story that the Amazon Tick tells really has very little to do with the previous Tick cartoon or any Tick comic book that may have come before or after that cartoon. And it definitely feels like the story of The Boys, which is a very adult superhero show, was being tested out with the story of the Tick. The themes are almost identical, with one being slightly more family friendly, the Tick being slightly more family friendly, but still not really something you would want a young 8-year-old to watch, whereas I'd probably be fine with an 8-year-old watching the cartoon. In my hazy, I probably never even watched it, memory of the Tick cartoon. I also watched a terrible series called Tales from the Loop. That was an Amazon Prime original. I was just looking at the originals in general. And yeah, it was not good. Mostly because it runs into a problem of basically not really trying to accomplish anything, like, or having one big a goal of trying to tell a story of sentimentality or a story of a moment, but not really being written well enough for that to work, because nothing great happens in any of the episodes. It's like something happens in an episode and the people are worse off, and it really is just like, here's the event that ruined this person's life, here's the event that ruined this person's life, here's the event that ruined this person's life, or at least drastically negatively affected these people's lives. And there's like one middle episode where that is best shown, where two characters are able to freeze time and live effectively a lifetime together, and eventually they break up. They go from being romantic and in love to kind of hating each other, and it's like, okay, that's the entire story. And you get an episode much later that's sort of the exact same story, and this is supposed to be some weird like futuristic world, some kind of alternate reality that feels like it's taking place in the 80s, but has a lot of like technology that looks like it's from thousands of years in the future, potentially. It almost kind of feels like Eureka, the sci-fi series, if Eureka did want to be a comedy or entertaining. And it's all centered around this, for lack of a better term, research facility called the Loop. And that doesn't really get resolved. At all. You never learn at all what the Loop is or what it does or anything along that line. So that's annoying. I would say that the Eureka sci-fi series perhaps somewhat ruined themselves when they did explain what the big secret was at the end of one of the seasons. But overall, Eureka, I think, was way more enjoyable. And then Eureka basically turned into Warehouse 13. The same concept, except for instead of science, now the items are magic, or the triggering MacGuffin of each episode is magic. Which, fair enough, but then Warehouse 13 had to throw in science to try and somewhat explain the magic away, so that there's some kind of magic system of something that explains it. Did I watch anything else? I briefly flipped my broadcast TV over to Disney XD and found out that there is a series called Player Select that is literally, I think it's called Maker Studios, video game content creators like Markiplier. I think Maker Studios is signed with all of them. So they literally are just on Disney XD showing kids YouTube gaming content. It's maybe with a pop-up video VH1 element on top of that, but that's pretty much the only thing that's different. Let's see. Wonder who I would have that I could return. I could probably return this. I could return this and it wouldn't have trample, and then really wouldn't do that. Two +1/+1s, then everybody gets -4 and -4 until the end of the turn. That would clear some things out. I don't know if that's what I want to do per se. Do I really want to kill his one card? Let's see. Disney XD also has a new DuckTales cartoon, which seems like it's doing more for what I saw of it. Like, I watched maybe half of one episode, and there was a lot more characters, and the Huey, Dewey, and Louie characters seem to be very different characters, whereas they, in the original cartoon, from what I vaguely recall, were kind of all the same characters. And then the other episode I saw half of, if not, maybe I watched most of it. I was really, really bored, clearly. Bored and just not making content. Because an hour straight of playing Castle Crashers can be a little too much to want to do 2 or 3 of those in an 8-hour period. The other episode was like a Darkwing Duck episode, which they kind of integrated that into the DuckTales universe, which I think is kind of the idea that they wanted to do with the idea of DuckTales, but I don't feel like that actually is the actual thing that happened there. I don't feel like the original DuckTales cartoon actually was Darkwing Duck. Also, I think Darkwing Duck was his own separate spin-off story. And I don't know if somebody is a fan of Jim Sterling or what, but they named a character named James Stanton to play the actor in the cartoon that plays Darkwing Duck, or the new, which is weird. Like it's weird to have a name so close to Jim Sterling. But then again, I guess Jim Sterling is not Jim Sterling's real name either. It's his pen name. So, I don't know. I also wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't just straight up some kind of pandering or friendship between the creators of Darkwing, of the DuckTales cartoon, and Jim Sterling. Although I don't think he has that kind of friendships, really. Like, he really seems to only have a few connections. What else? Is there any more to the accountability section? Which this is a pretty awkward and terrible accountability section, I will fully admit. No. I don't want to play that. We could do this, but this would only be cycling. Yeah, I don't think I can actually do anything. Does this one have flying first strike? Whenever a creature mutates, you may cast target non-creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. So a spell like this, potentially every turn, every time we mutate, which could take a lot of weak characters and make them stronger. So I'm gonna go ahead and cycle that. Yeah. So, not a lot to say there, so let's just start going through the news. Over the weekend, I would say we don't have a ridiculous amount of news. Not a lot happened, and we mostly caught up. So, there is potentially an experience here if we can get the things we need to get done, which seems like it might be doable fairly easily. So we could now put this on the field. What was his other ability? Oh, it had a mutate ability. Well, I didn't think about that. Clearly. Yeah. Yeah, I really don't have anything to say. I'm just laughing at myself on just looking at this and thinking, yeah, this whole week I'm basically gonna do nothing. I have no new ideas. I have no different plan. I'm gonna upload videos. At some point I'm gonna be forced to actually schedule the videos that are uploading, but that's all that's gonna happen. It's looking to be a pretty dull week, at least for me. We'll see what happens with the rest of the world, and I guess we could say that at any point in time these days. Video game wise, I think it's going to be fairly slow. We are now going into the summer seasonally, and probably that means the summer is summer break for most public schools and such, as we're going into that also, which there were definitely some arguments, and there definitely were some times where, just depending on how things went and how hot it was when I was young, that being out of school for the summer went a little too long, like a week maybe or two, and then I'm ready for a change, would be ready for a change to get back to school. That being said, it was almost every year that right around the fall time frame I was ready to be out of school. So it, for me, the schedule system never really worked. It would have been better, I think. It would have been better, I think, if there had been a break. Somewhere around fall, and then, or maybe even earlier, and then get back to school and maybe make even school last a little bit into summer. And they never really did that, nor were they taking any suggestions, honestly, as to how to change the schedule. It really boils down to the idea of how terrible the working conditions are in the United States. Is that At best, if you get any holiday or paid times off or vacation days of unpaid times off, you're maybe getting 2 weeks out of 365 days. Usually. Unless you are a teacher, and then if you're a teacher you get the summer off and then don't get paid for the summer. And I suppose a lot of people won't look at this next suggestion as a legitimate way to do things, but there is definitely a case of potentially you can't do that. There definitely is a case of potentially just having just losing your job or quitting, and every couple months. Sacrifice, search for the library. What do we want? No blue. Can we? Nope. Something is seemingly making this way more difficult. But yeah, ideally, I think I'd like to work maybe 4 months and then take a week to 2 weeks off, work 4 months and then take a week and 2 weeks off, and then that would be 9 months in total. And then so 3 months or 2 months and a week off. That last week of Christmas would be particularly nice. So, and whether you're working on holidays or not is drastically different based on your job and your boss. Otherwise you're not getting those days off. But the individual holidays as they are in the United States, and even when you combine them to get a 3, maybe 4 day weekend off, it's never really quite enough, and they're too random and infrequent. It would be nicer, I imagine, if you just had all of Golden Week off like they do in Japan, although maybe Golden Week has no relevance to people in the West. So, but it would line up nicely if nobody around the world was working during Golden Week, or all of a week off for Valentine's Day. Like each of those holidays that are the big holidays, the ones that really matter, would probably be better if they got expanded. And then maybe you get rid of things like President's Day and merge that with a 4th of July day. That's what I would do, is try to kind of merge some of these holidays together, and then you just have Patriots Week. Well, let's see what this does. Do I have enough to mutate onto this creature? Okay. That's something. Do I have anything that I could pull off here? I need to be able to cast this and this at the same time, and just don't think I have enough attack, enough mana. Okay, so I guess as we're struggling here to beat this workshop, we'll just start going through the news. TechRaptor has an article here. PUBG Update 7.1 adds bots to public games to balance the skill gap. It's an interesting addition, very, very late as far as PUBG is concerned. I'd kind of forgotten what PUBG even looks like, and it has been almost completely forgotten now in favor of Fortnite, which the Amazon Prime Tick series did have a couple of characters flossing, which I found that irritating. I don't know why he's gonna have this creature fight this creature, but we'll do that anyways. The Tick cartoons, though, I think are the Amazon Prime live action Tick show. I think it's kind of old, so flossing may have made some sense then, but also it just feels like the TV producer there said, let's have them have an awkward dance, and they picked that because they'd seen their kids doing it, or let's try to make this appeal to kids more. Unfortunately, kids are going to realize that they look like complete idiots flossing, and they always have. But previous generations had the Macarena too, and that's pretty dumb. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Yeah, with Fortnite coming to the Google Play Store, or on the Google Play Store at this point, I think PUBG has lost its last chance of renewing itself, of renewing the interest in people playing it. But it kind of had already lost that 6 months ago, if not longer, if not a year ago. And Fortnite is more the interesting story to tell, that it has maintained popularity, because it would have been totally believable that people would have gone from PUBG to Fortnite to something else very quickly. And I imagine kids will eventually go to something else eventually. But it's possible it doesn't happen. It's possible it is just going to be the next Call of Duty-like game, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Epic decided to make a Fortnite version or a sequel. Let's see, this one has a bounty counter on it. So if I put this over, does that destroy the bounty counter? No. Finally get rid of that guy. Let's see. So this deck clearly is built around casting spells. Should have played this, actually. That was a mistake. I feel like I slept in. I mean, that's part of the reason why we're starting late, and yet I also feel very quiet and just kind of low energy. Just way more chilled and laid back and relaxed than I probably should be. But also, I guess it's nice to just be able to play Magic and not have a burdenous like thought in the back of our head where it's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna lose again, we're gonna see 20-30 games of me losing before I can get 15 games of actual victories for the daily 15 wins. Yeah, over the weekend I could have been and probably should have been playing more Magic, just getting more levels up. And since I don't understand either of these decks, I'm not really gaining as much appreciation for them as I would like. I'm noticing that it's like not really understanding what they want here. Let's see. This mutates. How many instants and sorceries are in my graveyard? None. He just destroyed them all. This is terrible. So I need this potentially to mutate on top of this. Here we have a game on Steam called Timpu's Treasure. Let's look at this. It's an isometric looking game with blocky pixel art, which those two don't have to be connected. And it looks like it's basically nothing. Maybe a mobile game. They want $3.99. It's English only. It doesn't look visually impressive at all. I did want to go to, let's see.
A world of monsters?
How do we get
This is my paradise.
the Steam blogs? Because that's what I'm trying to look at, is what was the games that sold last month, because I don't think we've actually gone over that. Let's see, community discussions, broadcasts, store,
Beauty lies in variation.
news. There we go. Can we get to Steam news? Well, the Steam news is talking about the query expansion, and they put some interesting like tag expansion references here, which explains how I explained that way better. There you go. Top releases of March of 2020. I don't think we covered that. Let's see. We can block that. And that's pretty much it. Mutate this over, might as well over. This and play, and we will do how much damage? I bet we don't even do one, so I'm gonna do that, and yeah, we did absolutely no damage. So we've been able to basically play every card we've gotten, and I'm still gonna just lose because it feels like playing this 3-color mana deck is really just a case of such a late game combo strategy that I would have to really understand, and since I don't understand it, I'm going to lose with it. I also wanted to mention that I looked at my chat, and for some reason in the last stream on Friday somebody said hi, and it didn't load. Like, it just didn't load until after the fact. So I was not intentionally ignoring that person. I don't remember the name. Apologies again. But like, literally, I had the chat page open, and it wasn't until after I stopped streaming that your comment showed up. Generally speaking, you have to be fairly annoying in what you're posting on the chat for me to ignore it. Or you're commenting to somebody else. But even at that point, it's not like there's 2 or 3 people usually even on chat, so I can just repeat and relay the comments anyways. The thing about these mutate cards, though, is they really don't benefit from being sent into the graveyard after that point. So there's not a strategy I've seen so far, at least, where you could mutate the one creature 5 or 6 times, and then that would send 5 or 6 characters to the graveyard, which then would potentially do something like deal damage, like Vindictive Vampire would do. I imagine if you had Vindictive Vampire and some characters like that, they would pretty much still just they'd probably do just 1 damage for the single character that had been mutated into one character. I can't play this. And you can't cycle this. We do have a color selector popping up here. It would be nice if that menu showed up in some other points. So here's Steam's top releases of 2020. I wanted to look at that since we have some extra time right now. Black Mesa 1.0, Yes Your Grace. Avorion, didn't hear of that one. Ori and the Will of Wisps, did hear of that one, and people have completely stopped talking about it. So very quickly. Another great example of a game that was just like overhyped by mainstream game critics, which we're hearing less and less from them, and probably for the better. If there's one industry that might be nice if they just all disappeared for a while and then a new generation came in of game critics, I think that would be fine. Respect Max V or 5. Borderlands 3. Respect Max as a rhythm game. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. State of Decay 2 Juggernaut Edition, which I think is just a re-release. We have AI Shoujo AI. Haven't seen that one. Let's see if we can. You can't link to it, so there we go. See how that works. Did that lose my point? No. That is weird. We're on a web page and yet it's doing its own right-click pop-up. No box. We've lost here. Doom Eternal. People mostly done talking about Doom Eternal also. I don't think it did anything that was unexpected. It was great by all reviews, and it was expected to be great. So, yeah. There isn't a lot to say when you meet expectations. The only thing people have been talking about is the soundtrack, which they claim they're going to fix. Panzer Corps 2, Half-Life Alyx, Trails of Cold Steel 3, Bright Memory, sold. Great. This was the one that looks like that tech demo, and I'm not sure if it is or if it isn't. Idle Champions, Forgotten Realm is probably free to play. Last Oasis, I saw this, but I literally don't remember it. Remember on Friday we also had network troubles like crazy, so hopefully we won't run into that. Here, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4, that is a testament to just the selling power of One Piece and the staying power of One Piece as far as a long-running manga series and anime. Like, honestly, I don't think I could ever convince myself to actually want to do anything with any of the One Piece content, though. I think what I'd have to do is somebody would have to lock me in a room and force me to watch the first season of the anime so that I just learn the characters and like the characters. But I'm always off-put knowing how long-running it is. One Step from Eden, I believe, is the it is the Rhythm Mega Man Battle Network type game, yeah. Biped, which is coming to the Switch, is already on Steam. Yep. And then Mountain Blade Bannerlord 2. Then the top free ones are Bomber Grounds Battle Royale, Walking Simulator, a game literally called Walking Simulator, which somebody famous must have played this as a joke on YouTube or something. Rakion, Super Bernie World actually made it, which that's already an extremely dated game since Bernie Sanders has dropped out of running for the Democratic candidate for U.S. president, pretty much. Idle Champions, also labeled as a free to play game. Notice they only named 4 free games. There still seems to be a lack of consistent numbers as far as just who they want to name. They're as much as Valve claims to be like this libertarian company, that they are kind of picking winners and losers by just picking the cutoff point and not sticking to just a hard scientific number, in the sense that you could easily say these are the top 10 selling free games, these are the top 10 selling paid games. Even if they did the top 10 selling paid games and the top 5 selling free games, that would be fine. Although people would still call them out and go, why aren't you just doing the top 10 of both? I think that is the easiest thing. It's just have the numbers, do the top 10 of both, and be done with it. Almost certainly, I think there probably is in the top 10 of free games going to be some adult content game that they're trying to eliminate, or some really terrible game that they don't want to promote, that people seem to still get suckered into playing or like to play. Alright. I think I'm playing against bots right now too, so there's not really any good reason why that wouldn't have worked. And pretty much every time this happens, it pops up this error message, and then it tries to reload, and it's not making me type in the password, which is nice, but it does kind of suck. And I did have to just reinstall untap.gg. Like, it was just not working. So this is like the second or third time I've had to reinstall that to keep it working, whereas Hearthstone Deck Tracker never had that problem. it always, even if it messed up, it always would be able to update itself and launch itself. Where Untap.gg literally seems to run into bugs starting itself. Alright. Start with a green. So here's the One Step from Eden Mega Man game. It's already on my wish list. That was in the top seller. Here's Lost Oasis, which is mixed reviewed. I think this is probably an MMORPG. Yeah. Just like a early access, probably Chinese MMORPG. If it is a Chinese made game, though, it looks very good. Which I definitely would want to applaud that. Okay. Reach. And then here's that game, AI Shoujo AI, which feels like this is probably, yeah, it's tagged sexual content and nudity, and this feels like this is probably a romance simulator MMO, for lack of a better guess. $69.99, English and Japanese, single player. So, from the looks of it, it's probably an asset flip Japanese game, and you don't see that very often, where you're just 3D modeling a bunch of assets that have been flipped to basically make camera scenes and poses. So it's a fantasy simulation game where you're posing AI characters. Which is, I would say, slightly different than what you usually see, but perhaps not really telling a story. Revolves around 3D NPCs who freely act and grow. Okay. So it isn't so much posing them as it's playing dress up with them, and yes, they're showing off in the video that you can adjust their height and hairstyle and breast size and things like that. So in fact, it seems like it has quite a few options to adjust hair. So it's an interesting, this is my fantasy island. There are artificial intelligence that probably aren't super artificially intelligent running around, and it's kind of like The Sims from the perspective of a Japanese otaku who wants some virtual girls. It looks like almost all of them are girls wandering around, and the trailer and everything video keeps it family friendly. They're calling it a 3D life simulator. I would say, yeah. Now, when you compare this to having watched a video and looking at these screenshots, like when you compare this to The Sims, while The Sims have a lot of systems that are somewhat gamified, but not greatly well gamified, in my opinion. It's not really a very good game, in my opinion, The Sims. This feels like this is not much of a game at all, or it doesn't have any game elements or objects. It seems like you pretty much just create the characters and then let them wander around their own world doing whatever they choose, which you could play The Sims that way if you wanted, and you're just kind of watching. You might also argue that this is something close to like a pet simulator like Hey You Pikachu, where maybe you are having minimal interaction. But there is something nice about the Japanese perspective here on just the way these characters look. And I would still say this is probably an asset flip game for the most part. But it's unique in such a way. So I'm going to put it on the fall list and give it some more thought. Because, yeah, there might be something you can do there. And the nudity / sexual content in it may very well not be anything that's a real hindrance. It could be simply a case of see, I would need one more health to do this. Can I do this? Yes, I can. This would be a 1. So then I can just get rid of the creature so he can't mutate and keep leaving with the humans. Yeah. That's the real question, I suppose, is how much of this game how much game is in this game? Yeah, I'm reading the reviews. One says it is adult Disneyland. I hope to load a rated PG screenshot of some of my harem. That isn't an option according to what I've read. The Steam's forums. Probably should put this on the field fairly quickly. Should probably play this too. Yeah, this whole thing seems to work around the idea of having a lot more mana than you do. Yeah, there's one review here says that you need to download the official uncensored patch and then the unofficial uncensored patch. Here it says don't buy the game for the H gameplay alone. Apparently you're teaching the girls about life, and however you want to take that. Here's a negative one. Yeah, generally I only look at negative reviews, so I don't know why I'm reading the positive ones. Now I'm trying to bend over backwards, basically, to justify keeping this on the fall list when in all likelihood I shouldn't be keeping it on the fall list. Alright. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is just not going well because it's taking too long. I'm just not playing. Come on. Let me play this. Yeah, the negative one says boring, uninspired cut and paste assets to where it cannot decide whether it wants to be a survival simulator or a poor excuse for a recreational excursion. Too expensive for what it offers. $30 would have been a better price. Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. So I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take AI Shoujo off the fall list, and I probably did see this game and then just immediately dismissed it, and probably rightfully so. Because if this was terrible pixel graphics instead, if this was not just like asset flipped 3D graphics, I would not give it the time of day. And there is kind of no consistency of this like island either, and there's clearly not going to be any story or anything. Man, I'm just moving slow today. It's been an hour, and we haven't gotten a victory. We haven't gotten through the news. Let's just start hurrying up. Here we have a game called Into the Infinite, and let's move through this a lot faster. Looks like it is a hack and slash 3D game with maybe a little bit of jumping. I wouldn't even say platforming. There's a lot of visual stuff going on, a lot of flashing in this trailer, and a lot of swapping from places to places to make it look like there's more action going on than it really is. Where I suspect that means they probably recognize that the game is fairly slow. Come on. This is literally an instant card. One, two, three. It looks also like the only character you play as is this one character who gets different weapons, and it seems like they're really only showing off 2 weapons. They want a controller. It's free, so I guess the price is right. English full audio. So I'll just, I guess, say if this looks interesting and worth your time, check out Into the Infinite since it's free. Otherwise, I think most people will not give it the time of day. Oops. Well, actually, he screwed up there. TechRaptor has an article: future Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzaplex title leaked through merch. The idea that they're going to make yet another Five Nights at Freddy's game doesn't surprise me, though. Like, you really can't get away from it. The creator of Five Nights at Freddy's is not good at making any other games, and none of his fans of his previous games have any desire to see him make any other kinds of games. So he's trapped in what is an artist's hell, in the sense that he's known for one thing and he just can't get away from it. Probably should have killed that. Next, we have a game on Steam called Nations at War Digital, which looks like it's a board game being converted to a PC game. It looks like it's a military World War II game, and I think that pretty much eliminates my interest. It's early access, discounted to $2.99 English only, single player with online play PvP. Yep, nothing special here. I think it probably should just boil down to the idea of, if you've never had any desire to play a World War II board game in real life, there's no reason to consider playing a World War II board game in digital format. Compared that to something like Clue or Monopoly, where even if a person hasn't played Monopoly in the real world, they probably would have had some desire to at least play Monopoly in the real world. Let's go and put this. So if I reveal this card, I could do 5 damage to something. So reveal that card. And no attack. We're kind of in a good position, but not a great position. Gamatsu has an article. The romance visual novel White Wings launches a campfire campaign for PS4 and Switch versions. I don't know what a campfire campaign means, though. Due around October if funded. PC version launches July 30th. July 3rd. Jeez, I gotta read it correctly. Japanese campfire campaign. Apparently, Campfire is some kind of Kickstarter that is more of a Japanese-centric funding service, or at least has that as an option, because this link is camp-fire.jp. Interesting idea. This would be one of those characters that it would be the first time that a Japanese company has tried to get into the Kickstarter model. They're behind Western companies, and I wouldn't be surprised if that does mean that they'll try it and be about as successful as Western companies have been also, which is to say not very successful, and then I imagine they'll abandon it. I would say Japanese companies have definitely tried harder to get other people to fund their developments of their products. The idea of production companies and diversifying the financial risks is something that they have been trying to do for a long time. And it sort of works for them. But it does create a problem where no individual company has any personal loyalty or ownership of a product. So a product will make one season of an anime or something along that lines, and then they will give up on trying to really make any more, because if they had to make any more, they potentially would have to split those profits amongst 4 or 5 different companies and get those 4 or 5 different companies to agree to be involved with the sequel, compared to, say, What are we doing here? Fight another target creature. There we go. Get rid of that. Nice. What would this do? Target artifact and enchantment. Not really needed. Play that. And then we're gonna have this, and hopefully this will play out and work for us. Yeah, as for the actual game, White Wings, it looks like just your standard visual novel game. So, romance visual novel, so nothing new to say there. I've been in a weird position having just played Deathspank and now playing Castle Crashers. There's definitely going to feel like there's a long period on my channel where I'm putting out content that is pretty similar compared to what I originally wanted to do when I was young and optimistic and energetic with my YouTube channel, which was to have 3 to 5 different styles of games airing all at the same time. And then it was YouTube directly that says, no, you can only have 3 because we're only going to give you 3 notifications. And then it took a while for me to realize in those 3 notifications, one of those is your live stream notification. So the live streams, which they promote and algorithmically try to make more people watch, are just way more important. Let's see. We've got to do something to kill these creatures. Just gonna play this. And then play this. And let's not play that. Let's see what happens. Got him. I probably should have used that, sacrificed that to destroy that though. Oh yeah, that would have been a smarter move instead of bringing him back. Yeah, that was dumb on my part. TechRep does an article here. The Flower Collectors presents a unique whodunit. This is a Ludonarracon game, which they're going to be talking about a lot of these indie story-focused games. I have no idea why that bot decided to surrender, but I am happy to take that victory and never play any of this again. And our Haversack of Favor gave us 250 gold and 25 XP. And a new card, which I can't really complain about that, but that definitely sucks. And now we have another Mastery Orb, which, what were we gonna do? We're gonna get back on track and place these Mastery Orbs in a counterclockwise order to get the outer rings, then we'll get the inner rings, and then we'll start doing the next group. Yep. So we also got a free draft token on top of that, so we will use that on Wednesday to play draft. And we have 3 copies of this card and 1 copy of this card. New. And apparently we got that reward. And they were showing me that I'd gotten the reward before it even showed me that I've gotten the reward. Black and white is now our choices as far as what we're going to play. And we're not getting up unranked in the next 3 days. So let's just save ourselves the frustration. Let's take this white test deck and start playing. And let's try to burn through the news and see what we can accomplish. Now, I think it is probably only fair to say that there is a decent chance that as we approach summer, it will be particularly hot, and so I wouldn't be surprised if I start just feeling a little less energetic than even I am right now, which is insanity to even think about, but yeah, I think I may even slow down a little bit more. It is just like, how deep can the well go as far as the lack of energy that I could have, and it can be very low, but between just sleep problems, I honestly am not even sure I don't have some form of narcolepsy. Yeah, besides insomnia problems and just being in pain and being hurt problems and just being unhealthy in general problems, that on top of heat, on top of, hey, let's face it, nobody's doing mentally great right about now, with all of the pandemic trouble. So I could see that there could be streams. I probably will stick to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday streams, but I could see that also I just barely get any pre-recorded footage done, maybe don't get any at all, maybe just sit around and watch a lot of Netflix and other streaming services if I'm actually gonna, like, the thing about Amazon Prime Video is that there really isn't a lot there to watch, like, unless you want to watch old movies, old Western, not Wild West cowboys and Indians movies, but I mean, if you want to watch old movies that are in the United States or North America as their main audience, or old TV shows that do the same, that's pretty much all Amazon Prime Video offers, whereas Netflix tries to do the original content, which can at times be good, but very often it is pretty bad, or they bring in weird Asian movies and shows from other countries, or weird Indian, well, Indians are Asians, but yeah, they get more of a worldwide selection, which kind of guarantees that you'll see something different and something new, which is always nice. Gaining 1 life at that point probably wasn't super useful. What does this do? At least 20 cards more. Did I have 20 cards more? Yes. No, maybe. Exile any number of other non-line permanents you own. Return those cards to the hand at the end of turn. So this sweeps in and attacks as a companion. Not sure that's really going to work. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called King of Streets, which looks like it might be an interesting street fighting, like Mortal Kombat clone, for lack of a better term. I guess Mortal Kombat clone is the one. There's enough visual polish here to give it a chance. It's $16.99 discounted, English full audio. Yeah, that deserves to be on the fall list. We'll see how people like it. It's single player, split screen PvP, no online. That might be the thing that kills it. Wouldn't really kill it for me, but it would kill it for the game ever having a real audience. And a fighting game without an audience is not relevant. So it becomes kind of pointless to show off a fighting game that that doesn't have online. This game looks like it should be tagged with nudity and sexual content, but I don't think it actually has any in it. Here we have a game just called Kawaii Girl, which is Japanese for cute girl. So probably something that should be translated. You can see that it's a top-down twin-stick shooter that at time also has these images that aren't even very nicely drawn of anime girls with very big perky bosoms. But I think the vast majority of it is just this ugly top-down twin-stick shooter. They want $1.49 for this game. It's Japanese full audio and then supports Chinese, Korean, and English and subtitles and interface. And then there's 2 DLC single image content, pictures of girls that they're saying click here to download. So yeah, it looks like it's a very low effort bad game trying to be
I will gladly point out your inadequacies.
Trying to just sell itself on erotic imagery. Not even doing a good job at that. And yeah, I will say at this point, it does kind of feel like you could make a very good argument that there's just too many of games like that. And I would, and I probably have been consistently saying that some curation is due as far as quality, because I am not particularly a person who's just going to be so extreme on the free speech idea that Steam as a storefront should just be this public forum for free speech, because it's never been that. Nor am I going to be so extreme to say that in kind of like a free love pro adult game stance, I'm not going to be so extreme to also say that means every single scammer or low effort incompetent game developer should be allowed to put their games on Steam just to or put adult content in their games to try and trick 16-year-old boys with their parents' credit cards into buying it. I'm first and foremost interested in seeing quality games, and I'm willing to consider at least or discuss a trade-off for more quality, because we are
not just a gadget.
Steam really does just fall into this bottom of the barrel situation. Now, the bigger question is, does it really affect normal people? It probably doesn't. In the same way that YouTube has millions upon millions of garbage videos, but because nobody's watching them, they're not getting up in the algorithm for anybody to see them. But then also YouTube runs into a problem where if you do want to see something new, it can get somewhat hard because the algorithm is just so strong in YouTube's case that it will just say, no, you've got to watch this, you've got to watch this, this is the only thing we're going to suggest to you. I have definitely seen that as a consistent issue. It's like, I'd like to see something from a different content creator on the same subject, and they're like, no, you've got to watch PewDiePie's gameplay of Minecraft, or you've got to watch Mumbo Jumbo's gameplay of Minecraft. And it's just like, you have to then, if you want to curate your experience around that, you sometimes just have to go, I'm not interested in this suggestion, I'm not interested in this content creator. I have definitely run into content creators that just make such a bad video on a subject I'm interested in that I have to just say, don't recommend this user's content ever. There's a lot of ones out there that just kind of pander, and when you remove the pandering, when you remove the filling for time, you just kind of have nothing as far as any meat on the bone as far as what they're saying. Cinema Sins is kind of a great example of that. It is junk food content. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't critically review any of the movies it talks about. It just labels a bunch of things as a mistake, often incorrectly, and just lists them out to make a listicle video. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Namco Cards, which is cat girls in a kind of card game, although it seems like you're almost trying to solve a puzzle by laying out the cards. Like, I really wouldn't know how this actually works, and maybe the cards in this are getting leveled up, and the actual gameplay mechanic is this. And it's more of like a dungeon crawler. It's early access 3.19. Then it has some DLC. It's English, Japanese, and Chinese. I would guess this is probably a Chinese game by the looks of the thumbnail, but I could definitely be wrong. But overall, there's definitely not enough action going on. If a game looked like this and it was from the 90s, I'd be alright with it. I'd be like, okay, that does seem like something that looks good enough for a 1990s PC or a Super NES to play with and use. But since it is a brand new game, it looks like it's trying to be low resolution and a little bit, well, I won't even say pixely, just low resolution and nostalgic looking for no good reason. Oh, I suppose this is video game related. Someone in Japan said that they were going to give away 100 Super Famicom, basically Super NES consoles to kids, since they're all going to be doing remote learning and stuck inside and not able to go outside and play. Not that there's too many older Japanese people that are going outside and playing as much as they were going out to movies, and the parks do exist, but it really does go to show a lack of understanding in general, because if kids in Japan are playing video games or even know how to play video games, which I imagine most of them do, they're either doing it on their phone or they're doing it on their Nintendo Switch. They're not doing it on a 20-year-old console. There's something about Japanese society I've never been able to put my finger on that seems to allow for more ignorant people by percentage than, say, the United States society, which is saying something. A lot of backwood, just people that don't think about things. I think if I was to really guess, it's probably because they promote this social harmony amongst all other things, and just agreeing with people and saying you're sorry even if you aren't sorry, just to end conversations. I don't think there's... Yeah, I guess that probably does create this system where there's also a lot of very old people, certainly in charge, that make dumb decisions and don't know what the young generations like or don't like. There was a secondary story that one of the Japanese high schools or colleges was giving $500 basically to each student so that they can buy computers and do the online service. I'm not sure $500 is enough in Japan to get a computer, even a cheap one, since things are very, very expensive, often marked up quite a bit. And I have no idea what internet really is like as far as home connections of internet. There may be literally no home connections to most houses as far as the internet, so they would have to probably put their phones in like a hotspot mode, and once the kids actually start using the internet quite a bit, I wouldn't be surprised if their internet connections aren't very good. Inside Japan's own country, the internet might be great, but if they want to connect to anything outside of Japan, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a lot slower, because either you're going to be transmitting that via satellite connection from Japan to, say, Hawaii, and then probably from Hawaii via an underground connector to California, and then across the United States, and then potentially across the rest of the world. Or you're going to have underground wires going to like Singapore from Japan for the internet, and maybe going to Russia, maybe going underlying cables to South Korea, or you might have some that you try to get to see. Is there anything we want to do? And we can do this. Destroy target enchantment. But did I do this right? I didn't do that right, but it actually worked better the way I did it. So yeah, they're in for a whole mess.
It's not clairvoyance. I've just improved the search algorithm.
And I imagine there are similar problems in many, many other countries that are getting underreported or not reported on. I imagine in India, if the kids, if they are doing any actual social isolation in India, I imagine it's not very successful, and if the kids are trying to do any kind of remote education, that would be incredibly unsuccessful. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some major winners and major losers as far as countries go in dealing with these infections and the pandemic. Now I could probably play this, and probably wouldn't be a terrible idea. What I would like to do is have the creature that would gain life every time somebody is summoned. Moving on, we have a game on Steam. It's a bunch of Asian characters. It says Her 3, The Light of Paradise Regained. Looks like it's a RPG, Chinese RPG by the looks of the animation. This art style has never really interested me. It's way too bright, way too pink, and just lacking in lines. It feels like it's just painted with watercolors. Yeah, and yeah, it looks like it's probably a dating sim / RPG game, maybe just an RPG game. Yeah, it's $3.74, which means it's too cheap to really be a Japanese game. And it's English and Chinese. It says it has full audio for English and Chinese, which I doubt. Not particularly terrible for a Chinese game. Just if you can get over that art style, if you actually like this art style, that you can see there's some major improvements here, in which they're showing every screenshot is showing a person, it's showing a part of a game element. There is a variety of people showing up here. They seemingly actually did translate the game somewhat, so that they can claim that it's English instead of just selling it as Chinese only, which also implies that there might be actual effort put into the game.
These contraptions have their uses.
Unlike so many other things that we've seen where there's no real effort at all in it. I guess we really are just trying to play white cards right now, but getting victory certainly would have been helpful too, as I'm about to get defeated. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot DLC and New Power Awakens Part 1 launch trailer. I think this character's name is Barris, if I recall correctly. A god, an actual god in the Dragon Ball Z universe. So most important to take from that is that Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is still a thing. I don't know if there's much else to say there. Alright. Do I want to attack with all my characters and then play this? If I play this, that won't work. Do I want to play with this? Let's try. See how this companion works. Any number of cards, but not any of his cards. So so did that stop him from being able to activate his ability? Let's see. Exile a card. Exile that. So this is an interesting announcement. Gamatsu has a WWE 2K Battlegrounds has been announced. An arcade-style wrestling game developed by NBA 2K Playground Studio, Saber Interactive. Let's look what this looks like. It feels like you're not doing a Battle Royale game here, as that guy is getting tossed into a thing. Let's go ahead and pause and not get a content ID claim on this. Yeah, even though trailers are not copyrightable. It is, I think, fairly ugly. They've got these very large chested characters with tiny legs and tiny bodies. I don't know why that art style would have been decided upon, but the idea of having more fun around WWE games and not just trying to simulate what can be done in reality and what is shown in reality is the right direction for wrestling games. That there really is no reason that it should just be a simulator of the things they'll see on wrestling TV. And you run into a dangerous situation, I think, right now, in particular, as the wrestling is done without an audience, that people are starting to realize, well, this really isn't any different from a video game. It's not a group experience like it used to be, so I could see them wanting to change things up. The other bigger issue, of course, is that they have just completely failed to maintain quality or reach a greater quality as far as wrestling games have been in the first place. They've just gotten worse and worse. So them canceling the WWE 2K 2021 completely and then announcing a Battlegrounds game instead is great. With the timing there, it does kind of feel like this Battlegrounds game would probably be a little bit underwhelming. I don't know if you can just put more money instantaneously in something like that and then all of a sudden have it be a AAA game when it kind of looks like it was fairly obviously going to be a side spin-off game that they were just thinking about releasing on cell phones. That would be the only reason why that art style would make any sense, is that it's designed to be played on cell phones with small resolutions. But yeah, just in the trailer alone, throwing somebody into the waiting mouth of an alligator is the kind of early 90s WWF ridiculousness that would happen. The old Stone Cold Steve Austin's, where it was just straight up live action recreations of Looney Tunes going on. So yeah, I cannot say I hate the idea. I would certainly say that the one wrestling game that I've enjoyed in the past two or three decades was Rumble Roses XX, and part of the reason why that was fun, despite the fact that it was just a bunch of 3D polygonal girls in slightly scantily clad outfits, the other part about that was fun, though, is that it played well and had the ridiculous pretenses in it. Whereas for the most part, it feels like the WWE games have been very strict about being serious for some reason, and they don't even get like super hardcore as a major focus. It's not like every single wrestling match that they're hitting each other over the head with steel chairs or light tubes or things like that. The real world WWE kept having to remove the hardcore elements, the thumbtacks on the mat, because too many kids kept emulating the extremely hardcore elements, and then that caused them bad publicity. So I could buff this guy up fairly quickly. Let's not attack with that one. Next we have a game on Steam called Knock Harder, which looks like it's a dark screen shot, low effort, top down twin stick shooter horror game, or maybe an RPG Maker game. I guess maybe it's an RPG Maker style game that's top down. Or yeah, it doesn't look particularly interesting because it's super dark. $8.49 English and Russian, and then 43 achievements, so clearly it's an achievement game. I have 3 new things in my inventory. At least I thought I did. I lost my guy. How I lost my guy, I'm not sure. But I lost him. Next, we have a game called Space Fighter Rukia, which seems like it is a ugly 90s MS Paint looking game with some weirdly drawn characters, none of which labeled here seem to be the actual titular name Rukia. Oh, here is Rukia. Yep, definitely looks like there's nothing here of interest. $14.99 English only. Like, just ridiculously expensive too. We're starting to see more and more of that. TechRaptor has a Gears Tactics review. Let's see what they say about this. This would be the spin-off tactical Gears of War game, if that wasn't obvious. They give it an 8.0. On the gameplay front, Gears Tactics nails the transition from high-octane shooter to tactical strategy. You're hooked even as the grind through an overlong campaign filled with repetitive missions. Cons are repetitive story beats and objectives, valiantly awkward boss fights, and complete lack of in-game content. The pros are perfect tactical translation of Gears combat, deep unit customization options, and action-minded gameplay. 8.0 again. Okay, not hating that idea, although I'm not sure it really makes sense for me to even think about playing Gears Tactics until I've played at least a little bit of XCOM, because XCOM is, I guess, the de facto standard to compare any other tactical game around. Rocksteady was hiring, so they have like 20 available jobs. Rocksteady, maker of the Batman series, which really gives a decent thought that there's going to be a new Batman game that has begun development. So 4 years from now, we'll see some new Batman game. Not super surprising there. My hope is that Rocksteady can take what they've learned in the Arkham Asylum series, the trilogy that actually is 4 games as far as, but Rocksteady wants to think of it as only the 3 games they made. I'm hoping they can take what they learned from there and kind of do a lot different. Get rid of the beat 'em up combat for something smoother like the Spider-Man game combat. I think plays it better. Get rid of the idea of needing a vehicle, because that always sucks in vehicle missions. Maybe lower the number of collectibles. I think all games are going to have to start thinking from that perspective. Just no more 1,000 collectibles in every game. Let's lower that down to 100 reasonable collectibles, or maybe 300 reasonable collectibles. I don't want Rocksteady to take Batman into an insanely different direction to the point where it's like a Telltale game or anything like that, But I do want more polish and more gameplay and more things that make a little bit more sense for Batman. Try to bring in the fact that he's a detective more and he isn't just this always a action vigilante. I know the movies pretty much make him nothing but an action vigilante, and the comic books probably do that too, although the comic books probably don't matter much anymore because they'll probably be out of business by the time the next Batman game comes out. But try to put some fun into the character of Bruce Wayne and Batman in general. Like, it doesn't all have to be dark and brooding. There's an interesting point that I just saw, is that James Bond actually had his wife murdered in one of the early Ian Fleming books, and it's depicted in one of the early Ian Fleming James Bond movies. And that James Bond character is supposed to be the same character, even though the actor keeps changing throughout that. So there are a lot of instances of James Bond movies where he's still having some fun and being action-y without him just being dark and brooding over the fact that his wife was murdered. Like, nobody's gonna say that the famous womanizing and cool, calm, and collected character of James Bond is anywhere really close to what Batman is. James Bond might be somewhat close to what Bruce Wayne is depicted as, but not Batman. And so I would say that they probably should bring him into more of a cool and collected, calculating detective role. And then I would also say for the next Batman game, they should probably be careful about how many people, how many side characters, how many of the heroes, the rogues gallery are you going to bring in, how many sidekicks are you going to bring in, and not just flood the game with cameos of characters that don't matter, but make each character come into the story if they naturally make sense being in the story and if they actually play well. Also, the Batman games are going to have to be careful about, hey, are you just going to bring back the Joker in the next game, or are you going to move on to some other character who's going to play a role, or is it just going to be the Joker and Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze and the Riddler all over again? Like, because if they are just going to continuously make trilogies with the exact same enemies over and over again, then maybe they shouldn't be doing Batman. Maybe they should bring in another DC character, like, I guess, the Flash. Then at least you could bring in the Flash's rogues gallery and do something different there. Moving on, Gematsu has SNK Gals Fighter due out digitally on April 29th. Platforms not specified, but rated for the Switch and Korea. This is a 30th anniversary Neo Geo game, apparently. That's what I would assume what that means. So this is an old game getting re-released. A collection of the girls from the SNK games fighting each other. This is not to be confused with the more recent SNK collection of girls fighting each other, which played a little bit differently. I think this one probably plays fairly in line with the way those female SNK fighting characters would have played in their respective games. Just do no box. Just end it. Just end it. Like, they're gonna take me out regardless. Just save myself some time. Oh man, one white away. And yeah, we've only gotten one victory. And that may have been in the quick disconnect on the weekly thing. Magic is getting more and more of a hassle, frankly, with its 2 or 3 things a week that you kind of need to do on top of 15 victories per day that you kind of need to do on top of the 10 minimum victories you should do every day to get the mastery levels up. And I guess maybe if you just rolled it back a lot and said, you know what, I'm not going to pay for the mastery. I'm not going to care about the daily victories because I don't care about getting experience for the mastery levels. I'm not going to then do any of the other side things because I don't really care about the cards that I get. But to adopt that attitude, the only way you could really get away with that and still really be anywhere successful in Magic is if you're just buying cards. And that would be it. There is probably a much faster and better experience if you just went pay to win and became a whale and bought all the cards at the beginning of every expansion. Thus, you don't have to really buy the Mastery Pass because all it does is give you skins. And I'm not sure you couldn't just buy those skins in the store in the first place. And I guess also if you have all the cards, you probably could do something smart enough to create a scenario where you're not actually not actually having to lose as often because you probably just win. Yeah, this whole system becomes a lot easier once you can buy all the cards, buy all the skins, buy somebody to potentially, I mean, you generally wouldn't have to pay somebody to tell you what cards to play, but you would have all the cards to play the top tier meta decks. Moving on, Gamatsu has Atelier, Ryza, Everdarkness, and the Secret Hideout shipments and digital sales have now topped 420,000. So this, by Atlier's standard, this newest game has been an amazing success critically, and now it's been a pretty good success for a niche game in general. And if you look at the breakdown here, you have Romance of the Three Kingdoms doing only 260,000 for the PS4 and PC, and Warriors Orochi 4, which is a probably bigger known series, which is also available for the PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. They only did 250,000. Atelier Ryza came out in September of 2019 and October on PC of 2019, so it's been out for about 6 months. And again, definitely not a game that, because it's niche, would have been likely to sell a million units or expected to sell that much. 300,000 does seem to be about the right number for something to be considered a success, unless it's a AAA game, and then the AAA game developers never consider it a success regardless of how much it sells, a la Borderlands 3. Gamatsu has an article here. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition screenshots and character renders are available. Like, not really much news there. And people just keep finding ways to exile and destroy all my cards. This is just annoying. We may have hit a point as far as Magic where there's just too many cards that are too easy to exile. And maybe in the next actual expansion, instead of the Core 21 expansion. Maybe they'll put out a bunch of cards that just have a ability that says cards can't be exiled. Cards that are exiled go to the graveyard instead. Something along that line. Because look at this, I'm about to lose and I barely played any cards at all. Next we have a game on Steam called Coronafied. I just wanted to mention, yeah, we're starting to see a few of these low effort games that are trying to pander and make money. It's free to play, and apparently it's not even trying to make money. English only, but yeah, there's nothing here. I don't know why you would waste your time making a basic joke game. This is probably a little too inside baseball, but Game of Sutra has an article, How Blizzard, Ubisoft, and other studios went remote in the time of COVID-19. There's definitely something to be said about a lack of forethought and preparedness in IT as far as remote connectivity. No company and no source that covers like what is the trend, what are IT people focusing on. Nobody was talking about remote connectivity really. Even a very basic thing that schools could have had, which is, do most schools have a system where you can call into a landline phone number and get on a voice call? Is there some sort of contract or solution to doing that, or some software set up to do that? Like most schools, probably not. Even if their phones would be able to do group calls or voice calls, it's probably not known how to do that. And that backup certainly would have helped a lot of kids that didn't have internet access, but it probably doesn't help by much. Yeah, but for years I've been following IT people, and it's all about the 3-2-1 backups. 3 backups, 2 different medias, 1 offsite. That was what people were focused on. It's all about security against viruses and ransomware. Ransomware has been a big focus lately in the past decade. But remote connections, not even on the board. Even if somebody was like particularly paranoid and prescient about knowing that they wanted remote connections, just the fact that nobody else in the IT fields was really talking about it means that whoever would have been in charge of the budget would not really have been on board with that idea. And that's probably a similar case for many other departments also, is that the idea of a pandemic was not considered a realistic or something to worry about. I did not want to play that. Can we cancel? No. Because when it does connect, it connects too fast. This white test deck that I've been using also not really teaching me anything more than it needs more mana, clearly. Like, a lot of these things don't seem like they work well enough. One of the things I can say is that as far as schools, if they're trying to do anything other than direct communication, which most of them are just using Zoom or Microsoft Teams, I'll throw out there, but I don't think very many people are actually using Microsoft Teams. They should be, but it's lacking options compared to Zoom. But if they were trying to broadcast and kind of be like YouTubers to potentially educate more than just their class, or have something that have a presentation that is more of a like speech being presented to be broadcast out. They totally don't have a clue how to do that right. Like, schools don't. Extracurricular STEM projects and things like that, they just don't know how to do that. The teachers have been used to talking to giving a speech in front of a class of 30 students, and that's pretty much it. But once you start getting into the world of YouTube and promoting your videos and saying, hey, here's this Twitter feed we set up, here's this Facebook page we've set up, here's the YouTube channel we set up, here's the Twitch channel we've set up, they don't know how any of that works, to the point where they probably don't even know that if you've got like 5 teachers in a certain grade, you probably need all 5 of those teachers to watch every other teacher's footage just to get more views and more likes. Like, if I was the boss of a school, I'd say, okay, we've got this YouTube channel. Everybody, as your job, teacher, is to watch these videos. You don't have to actually give feedback or watch it. It would be nice if you do see something to let us know, but we need these to get 100% watch times from you, and we need thumbs up, and we need those as soon as these videos come out, so we can try and get this a little bit more trending, instead of potentially having 1 or 2 views a week later, and like, or subscribers on YouTube. Like, every single teacher should be subscribed to the school's YouTube channel, and they just don't know that that's what needs to be done. They've been inside their own little bubbles of doing things the way things have always been done. That the idea of pivoting is just not anywhere likely to happen. And there probably will be some major winners and losers in this. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's just an MIT level of like extra education that becomes so popular and so successful that parents just stop having their kids watch their local programs, their local education programs, and instead everybody just watches MIT, which creates the dangerous precedent that all local schools will start losing funding, and everybody will just have all kids around the United States or around the world getting the same education from the same 1 or 2 people, which standardized education is a good idea, but it has to have a lot of oversight and be done very cautiously. Otherwise, you're going to start having mistakes getting taught to an entire generation, or propaganda, little yellow journalism getting taught to an entire generation. That already happens in schools quite a bit. There was a story in the United States of one city trying to ban books yet again. Every year there's some school system that tries to ban books just as a way of creating wedge political issues. That's pretty much it, because there's no way that the Supreme Court, even in its current makeup, or even in a future conservative makeup, is going to go against freedom of speech. If they did, that would be ridiculous, and then like a lot of people would be very upset about that. Like, and the fact that so many people still, decades later, are still trying to ban the same 20 or so books is just ridiculous. It's not like the kids are even reading them.
A pure soul can inspire others.
Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Galactic Protection Squad Episode 1, which looks like it's an asset flip attempt at a space game, just not visually polished again. $9.99 English full audio. No reason for episodic games to exist in general, particularly when it's somebody who doesn't know. Let's see. Can we mutate onto this creature and then go under him? Actually that was stupid. I should have done over. But whatever. If I can play this next turn, I think... Well, I need to kind of get this on the field and then play this the next turn after that. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Infinite Corp, which looks like it's an attempt at some interesting characters, a very sharp edge design, very strong, sharp jaw lines on all these characters. But it seems like there's kind of no game here. It almost feels like they're saying it's a card game, but I'm not even seeing a card game. It feels more like a visual novel than more than anything else. Let's see. Let's come over here. This. Yeah, even after watching the video, it doesn't look like there's an actual game in there. Early access, $3.99 English and Polish. I guess that is something to mention about the Amazon Prime videos, that they had a scientist from a country called Armenia, which was almost certainly supposed to be a reference to Ukraine. So I don't know why they didn't just call it Ukraine. But it wasn't particularly comedic, and it really just felt like perhaps there was some Russian influence on Amazon.com to not name the country Ukraine, and that's some pretty nefarious stuff to have one country say you can't mention another country by name, like China does for
Our true
Singapore or
lies in our friendships.
Shanghai, not Shanghai.
What a mess I've made.
Taiwan, that's the other one. Singapore and Taiwan. Moving on, we have a game called Creator Adventure Legend, which looks like it might be an RPG Maker game trying to be like a Harvest Moon game. It's got way too much stuff on the screen, and the tile-based art looks particularly bland. $13.99 is way too expensive. English and Chinese, that's pretty much what I was gonna expect on that. Okay. Whatever he just pulled off probably won the game for him. Can I play this? And then play this. So I think the way this would go is I want to put this. I don't know how this really would work. I think you probably would want to get rid of just these 4 and then bring them back. And instead of getting rid of, say, this and this. Because I don't think that these characters' abilities actually will activate unless they're on the field. And the synergy we've got going on here is nice, but it's not going to save.
Where you belong.
And that just wrecked me.
The will be strong.
Just totally wrecked me. So my in-game goal there probably wouldn't have won it for me. He had 105 health. And yeah. His in-game goal totally beat me. So I need to rebuild those cards at some point. Rebuild that deck. Here we have a game called Evolution for Beginners, which looks like a terrible game. I should have curated some of these. $3.14 English only. Yeah, I'm not going to go any further talking about that one. So I'm going to try and burn through a lot of this stuff quickly. Here we have a game on Steam called What Makes Us Special, which looks like it's a anime inspired, if not actually anime drawn visual novel. And here you have some, I don't know, the head is a little bit swollen compared to the neck, and then the body is kind of stretched out. And none of them are like in school uniforms, even though they're being shown in a school, so it's almost like it's not taking place in a country where uniforms are required. It's $5.99. It's English and Polish. No Asian language at all in there. Let's go and get rid of... You know what? Let's get rid of one cat. We don't need 2 cats. My concern here is that this would be a really short visual novel of no real interest. And I guess all I could do to alleviate that concern is just put it on the follow list and see how a Polish visual novel actually would be received and see how long it is. Having really no knowledge about what Polish life is like or the Polish people are like, a slice of life visual novel which looks like it's probably got some romance elements, since every single character here is female that's being depicted, might be somewhat interesting or educational. It might also just be a whole lot of nothing. So, yeah. I think by the time we do a follow list cleanup, we'll have our answer on that one. I probably, since I had 2 there, if I was going to attack, I should have switched the character out, so I should do this right now to adjust for that. And then bring that back onto the field. And resolve. Now if he puts something with haste and attacks, I may be able to defend against it. And we're in a good position to win here. We actually have a deck built with a purpose. It's just going to be a matter of making as much progress as possible. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Infinite Dronin, which seems like it's a Ronin samurai and a drone combined by that name. But the actual game looks like it is just a top-down twin stick shooter beat 'em up. Looks pretty messy and a lot of stuff going on. I don't think I would be interested in playing a game like this. These top-down hack and slash or twin stick shooter games. Early access, $24.99, English and German. I think I can fairly easily skip this, and really I'm skipping it more on a personal taste issue more than anything else. It's just I don't know how you make something like that really, really fun and not feel like just a bad game design element. Come on, activate. Some of the clicks don't seem like they want to work sometimes in Magic. That's weird. But we definitely have seen enough weirdness that I would totally be willing to believe that it is messing up sometimes, unintentionally. Yeah, about 3 more turns and we have won. And we are setting ourselves up so close to a Bola Citadel win anyways that we've got not a lot to be concerned about. Gamatsu has an article. Bit Summit Gaiden Digital Event has been set for June 27th to 28th as a live Twitch stream. I suppose it is interesting to see how video game companies, this is a replacement for Bit Summit, the 8th bit, which I guess would have been the 8th year of Bit Summit. Video game companies in particular are particularly well knowledgeable about technology, so them converting to Twitch, which they were probably already thinking about or at least knew how to run a Twitch stream anyways, is not surprising. It will be, I suppose, more surprising if we find that some companies, some video game companies are kind of incredibly incapable of creating a social media presence and making content for it. But there really is no excuse as to why that would be the case. Next, attack here and here. And we'll see what he wants to block with. And we'll just go ahead and eat it. And put it back. And the only reason to do that is so that this guy can attack freely. Or maybe have a better chance of attacking freely. Next we have a game on Steam called X-Racer 2 Evolution, which looks like it's probably a cell phone game with some crazy racing elements. Let's see, $1.69 discounted, English and German. Yeah, it doesn't look particularly interesting. I played a game that was somewhat similar to this about 5 or 6 years on the cell phone, then got bored of it fairly quickly because you're just always driving, always trying to get coins, always trying to level up to the next thing. They
Let me
tend
demonstrate
to
the
have
prowess of my ancestors.
the feeling of having some pay to win elements and such, so that becomes another issue. We're gonna resolve. I guess we will.
Enlightenment begins within.
If this guy somehow wins, that would be amazing. Because I have this guy on the ropes. Even if he did manage to mount a particularly strong defense, all I need is Bowl of Citadel and then I could win for sure. Gonna attack that. And sure, let him kill that. Meanwhile, we'll sacrifice that. It seems really pointless to have this have you select a food token, because as far as I've seen, there's been only one type of food token that exists at all in the game. They just created the idea of food tokens, so why not just auto-select the food tokens, first one that's in that it picks, and just move forward from that point? 744 creatures, equal to your devotion to white. How did he have such a high devotion to white?
Meditate with me.
This is ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. I'm gonna get wrecked by 8 of these characters. And so all of a sudden I've gone from I've got this in the bag to I've now lost the game unless I can draw a Bowl of Citadel. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Valor Girls, which is just a bunch of anime girls on a white and grayish background in a jigsaw puzzle game. The art style here does seem to kind of connect better than most. Instead of just having a generic black background, they've picked color pictures that they probably are asset flipping that kind of match the background. Yeah, okay. 59 cents discounted English and Russian. Still no reason to actually buy these games and potentially fund Russian game developers. Low effort Russian game developers who may be pulling off some scams by making these terrible games. See. Next we have a game on Steam called Daiichi Dash, which looks like a way too colorful game. Looks like it's somebody's LSD trip of idea of a game, but the user interface looks terrible and the actual graphics themselves outside of the color palette look pretty bad. It's $5.99 English only, so that doesn't fully make sense either.
To open the mind, you must first open the heart.
So what's he gonna send back? Is he gonna get rid of any of his cards?
I will meditate on defeat.
Come on, Bola Citadel. This deck has 3 Bola Citadels. That's should be more than enough. And all I can do is block 1. And while we're at it, we'll get rid of this. And then put this back on the field.
That which appears
Next, we have a
mystical
game
is
on
merely the
Steam
result
that's
of practice.
looks like it's Korean letters. It's by the title called Novena Diablos, which sounds almost Spanish, if anything. And it does look like it is a horror visual novel, something akin to like The Exorcist or something. It's tagged as surreal detective game. English not supported, 1709. Korean only. It's a shame, because this actually does look pretty good, and I wouldn't have been upset with putting this on the fall list by any means. Yeah. But, yeah, you can see it's already rated very positively for whatever that's worth. So I guess if you speak Korean, check out Novena Diablos. And meanwhile, we are losing. And there's nothing that's gonna save us. And I messed myself up by playing that and bringing back that character. I shouldn't have done that. TechRaptor has an article, Roki Champions Folklore and Storytelling. This is another Ludo Narracon interview with Polygon Treehouse. So there's going to be a lot of these articles talking about a lot of games that we may never see on Steam and may not have any relevancy at all. And I'm going to try and mostly skip a lot of it, because it kind of doesn't fall under a relevant reason. Alright. I needed to have killed this guy and then destroyed this, because this with this have been synchronizing to ruin me. TechRaptor has an article, Coda asks players to blink through its story. This is yet another interview talking about another game. None of these games really benefit from even getting extra hype, because they're not big enough products. They're not going to be big enough sellers that makes sense. Here we have a game that's just in some Asian letters, and it almost certainly is a Chinese Diablo clone MMORPG. It doesn't look terrible, just a lot of stuff on the screen, very Chinese themed. English is not supported, it's free. with in-app purchases, and it's Chinese language only. This looks better than a lot of the other ones, though. Again, questionable though why you would want to play those games on the PC instead of on some other platforms. There's no way we survive this. This is just taking forever, and I'm ready to be done with this stream. Like, chair's gotten uncomfortable, and victories are not coming quick and easy. This guy's gonna do 53 damage. Yeah. Plus. So, since it's Monday, and since we only need victories, let's start skipping past games, and we'll just cover the news, and then let's just wrap it up. This will be the last game, pretty much. We have a game here called Empress of Gold that looks like it's an asset flip platformer with kind of nothing in it. 99 cents, English only. So that'll be the last game since that page was already loaded. And then here we have a TechRaptor article. Minecraft Blockdown Simulator teaches you about social distancing, which, okay. I wonder if there's actually let's see, is it a Java? Apparently there's a Java version thing, and there's infected villagers, and infected villagers can infect other villagers. Maybe not a terrible idea, but putting it in Minecraft probably was a lot of extra work for no reason. When honestly probably would have been better not trying to explain the concept of social distancing using Minecraft and just explaining it more directly. Because I can imagine kids' first question are going to be, well, why can't you just use a potion of healing to solve the current pandemic? Or why can't you just use console commands? Or why can't you eat a golden apple? Moving on, Gematsu has an article. PC Gaming Show 2020 is set for June 6th, featuring new games, gameplay footage, and announcements. It's going to be a live stream, I assume? Seems like... yeah, it's streaming on Twitch and other platforms. They don't even want to mention YouTube, I guess, at this point. TechCrypto has an article. Ninjala Battle Pass promises more adorable shinobi content. I kind of didn't want Ninjala to have a Battle Pass in it. As a new Splatoon from a different company, or new game like Splatoon from a different company, the idea of a Battle Pass happening and then having to pay to continuously get more content really makes this a hard sell, considering it's targeting young kids. I don't think Fortnite has any kind of Battle Pass elements. It probably has some in-game V-Bucks. Yeah, it has in-game purchases for sure with the V-Bucks, but I don't know if there's a Battle Pass or anything that is more than just cosmetic purchases or dances. I think you buy dances, but I haven't even played Fortnite, so I have no idea. TechRaptor has an article here. Torchlight 3 co-lead says he hates pets in Torchlight, which is probably more evidence that Torchlight 3 is being made by somebody who's not really the idea of, he doesn't really have the idea of what pets were, because he's saying free-to-play mechanics were awful according to the developer. But the pets in Torchlight 1 were not free-to-play mechanics at all. Well, maybe you could argue that they were free-to-play mechanics, but I'd have to hear a real good idea. And maybe I'm misreading this article, and he's saying the free-to-play idea of Torchlight 3, which was what it was originally going to be, and I don't think is what it is going to be now. They're also passing on the Battle Pass. Seems like he's probably saying all the right things. But the pets in Torchlight 1 weren't there as just cosmetic purchases. They were there as helpers to speed up the gameplay and the grind of playing a Diablo-like game, because they would take the inventory items you have back to the storefront. Now, when you compare that to just an item like the grinder in Deathspank, where you have an item in your inventory, you cannot get rid of it, it just grinds down all your weapons that you don't want to use to money immediately. The grinder is a way better idea than a pet. Pets fighting with you, slightly an interesting idea, but it doesn't ever really work. I can't think of a single game where having a pet actually helped you beat a boss. Now, Diablo 2 had like co-fighters that you could hire, like assistant human characters that would attack enemies, and they worked pretty nicely. But I don't. There's a difference there between having an animal fighting with you and having another human fighting with you, even if it is just an AI human. But yeah, probably having pets in the game makes a Diablo game a little bit busier, because then you have this one creature that's running around drawing your visual attention while it not actually being an enemy, so it's just acting as a distraction. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The Witcher Masquerade adds 8 hours of fan-made mystery. I don't think, though, that this is a mod for The Witcher 3. I think this is a mod for The Witcher 1. Let's see. Yeah, that doesn't really look like Witcher 3 graphics by the looks of it. Let's see. Yeah, it's a brand new fan-made adventure released for the very first Witcher game. Which, I do own the first Witcher game, so there is a small chance I'd go back and play it, but not a very large one. I'd rather go back and play Witcher 3 and do the DLC than go back to playing the first one or the second one again. TechRaptor has an article, Stop the Big Bang with Jazz in Genesis Noir, which this seems like them promoting yet another game that might be interesting when it comes out, but it's not out anywhere in any time soon. So we'll long since have forgotten it by the time it actually comes out. Komatsu has an article, Games Radar announces a future games show digital showcase for early June, which, okay, another stream, another presentation. It is, I suppose, slightly interesting to point out that if Games Radar is getting enough content to put on their own show, that means PC Gamer did not manage to scoop up as much all the content, which was what it kind of felt like they might do. there's not really too many other video game journalist sites out there that are in a good position to do a show like that. I mean, people could try, but if Kotaku did it, there'd be a big backlash. If Giant Bomb did it, there'd probably be a very lack in polish on it, and it wouldn't be very good. It would really take the cooperation of 3 or 4 mainstream video game journalist sites to pull off a good presentation. In most cases. TechRaptor has an article, last minute Project Genesis, a release date delayed, pushes back the launch date a month. So this game, Project Genesis, is getting pushed back, as pretty much everything is. Speaking of Genesis, the Neon Genesis Evangelion movies that are free to watch on YouTube are in Japanese only, so without subtitles. So that's not going to be very helpful for anybody who doesn't speak Japanese if they wanted to watch it. Plus, you're still watching an 80s anime and content, even if it's been recut and even a little remastered. You're still watching it on YouTube, so the quality is going to be pretty bad, both visually and even audio-wise. TechRaptor has an article, Torchlight 3 Forts revealed in a new video. So, what's the difference? I guess this is the idea of building forts. Watching this, it seems like you still do have pets. So, I don't know what's going on there. And that character's outfit looked odd to me. It seemed like she had a skirt, but the skirt seemed a little too flesh-toned for its own good. Jump back and look at that a second. So a fort is basically a fort. It's a place where you're going to get collectibles when you defeat levels, and places where you might grind up more. I don't see how this is much different from a city, and I don't see why you would want a fort and a city, unless forts are going to be kind of like arenas, which it doesn't feel like they are going to be that. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Alright, so let's pause this right here. Pause, and then close this. She has this outfit that's bright green with gold, a gold line, and no shoulders. And then it comes out over like this, and over like this. And then she has what looks like just a bright green with gold outline, almost like thigh cap. Just something that's just magically glued to her thighs. And then she has boots that are bright green. So when you look at this part here looks very flesh-like. And I don't think it's supposed to. And it's not quite the same complexion as her arms and her face, certainly, but it does look like it's very flesh-like, and it gives off with this V-shaped adornment that can only be described as like a camel toe emblem. This is bad game design, visual design. Yeah. And when that's the thing that catches my attention in the first 3 seconds of a 1 minute and 10-second video, it's kind of hard to pay a lot of attention to anything else. Just, man, they need to redraw that. They need to have caught that in the development, and that should not have made it to the final product. Gamasutra has a blog here for Black Mesa's project lead Adam Ingalls on Half-Life, remote work and game design philosophy. This is an article. At this point, I think I don't have time to read articles ever. So even if I did kind of want to read his little blog article interview, it's probably not going to be very helpful or informative as a video game critic to know what he has to say. Honestly, if the artist cannot convey the message through their art, I don't want to hear the message. In the same way that if some video game content creator went on Twitter and decided to rant about what their game is supposed to mean, but nobody got that meaning from actually playing the game, it's kind of pointless. And it's also kind of pointless to follow video game creators on Twitter and hear about their opinions or like political beliefs and things like that. It really doesn't mean anything or help anything to somebody who just wants to consume the art and play the game. Moving on, we have Gamatsu has a retro racing 80s overdrive game, a retro racing game called 80s Overdrive, which is coming to the Switch on May 7th, which does look like just another Overdrive or Overdrive clone. Doesn't look like there's anything too special here. And what people consistently forget about these racing games is the thing that made them interesting is that they were in arcades with actual steering wheels. Once you lose the steering wheel, they become very boring very fast. TechRaptor has an article, Battlefield 5 final big update is coming this summer. So that's pretty much the end of Battlefield, and I think a bunch of people are somewhat upset about that. Although I think probably a larger majority of people never got into Battlefield and just kind of don't care. Next, we have a TechRaptor article. Stylish open world game Murder Mystery Paradise Killer is announced. An open world murder mystery called Paradise Killer. They need to start using quotation marks way better, or underline it or something to say what the actual name is on these titles. Well, this looks stylish in a unique style. I don't know if it's a particularly good style. I don't know if this feels a lot like a Western game trying to be wild and crazy like an anime, but not really having a style of their own or an idea. So you've got just craziness on top of craziness on top of craziness, and I guess if they wanted to do something like that, it might work. But I feel like a lot of these character designs that I'm looking at need to, and character designers, game designers in general, need to have a design Bible. Like, why is this guy a skeleton? Why is that girl so normal compared to everybody else? Why do most of the guys have no shirt? If there's some kind of backstory in the mind of the creator, if that character feels alive in their head, I think you get a better experience versus this, which seems like what they did is they took maybe a bunch of JoJo Bizarre Adventure poses and a bunch of crazy characters from a bunch of games and mixed and matched things until they had something that they felt like was unique and iconic without there being any reason or theme or rhyme to why the characters look that way and why the game works that way, or why that world makes sense or works. Next, we have TechRaptor's review of Disaster Report 4 Summer Memories. I think last time I saw it, I saw a review was not particularly great, but I'm not sure if people understand what the game is. Yeah, 6.0. While Disaster Report 4 is very stiff and jerky game, it's at least entertaining. Just don't try and play it twice. Cons are sort of worthless morality system. Graphics and animations are dated. The choices don't seem to matter much. Pros are compelling disaster survival gameplay. Lots of outfits and collectibles are fine. it had some genuinely hilarious moments. So yeah, it might very well be a case that Disaster Report as a series is not actually good games, and that's why in part they've never caught on or been brought over to the West. TechRaptor has an interview with Ludo Naracon's Chris Wright, the creator of the game we just looked at that they were promoting. So, surprise, surprise. I feel like particularly there is just way too large of a subgroup of game developers out there that are just weirdos. Weirdos by even video game standards. That they aren't in touch or in tune with what game players want to see and want to play to the point where they are probably the type of people that have worthless arts degrees that can't get a job anywhere else, even as like an art professor. And yet they don't want to be starving artists who create their art and give it to the world for free. They want to try and sell it to people and then try to commercialize it and sacrifice their own original concept to try and commercialize it. Next, we have an article from TechRaptor. Final Fantasy XIV's patch 5.3 streamlines A Realm Reborn and also adds flying. Interesting. The good news is we probably won't have too many leftover games for Wednesday, but we certainly are taking forever to get done. I need to just always move faster. Gamma Sutra has an article. Stillfront Group acquires casual game maker Candy Writer for $74.4 million. This would be kind of a great scenario if I had a second content creator on my channel. I could do an hour of Magic Arena and then and talk about the news and then just hand it off to a co-anchor type position like you see in 24-hour news things. Is usually those two people tagging between the two different stories. Because yeah, it is a pain to try and go 3 or 4 hours covering all this stuff, and most of it does need to be covered, or it feels like it should be. Anyways, Gamatsu has an article. Super Mash for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch launches May 8th. I don't know what this game is though. Let's see if we can get a general idea of how shoot 'em up. And oh, this is the game that's like a mashup of many different games. So 2 different game styles get mashed together, and then it gives you a mini game combining those 2 different game styles. And it's not very interesting, frankly. From what I've heard, it's almost like WarioWare game mini games. It's not interesting or unique, and sometimes you'll get something like action and adventure that, from what I hear, wouldn't really change the game much, or you get something like action and visual novel, and then that doesn't work at all or make any sense. Although if somebody was going to actually try to make an action visual novel, that'd be interesting. TechRaptor has an article here. EG7 reveals Mass Effect parody minimal affect instead of effect. Interesting idea. I don't know if there's enough Mass Effect fans still around that they'd want to play a parody like this. And I don't know how much a Mass Effect parody sells compared to just a generic fantasy sci-fi parody like Star Trek. Like, why not just make a Star Trek parody and do it well enough so that you don't get sued? But the real question, I guess, here is there a link to Steam? Nope, it's not even coming out until 2021, which really puts it just yet another year away from being relevant compared to Mass Effect. Gametsu has an article. Tales of Crestoria launches in early June. Open beta test set for early May. This is going to be a smartphone game, and if this is the graphics on a smartphone, that's particularly good looking graphics. Let's see. You already talked about that. And that. So I guess that brings me to the Humble Bundle store. Yep. I did get some of the audio VST2 plugins installed, and some of which actually seem like they're working or could work on with OBS. The problem is I don't know how to configure them, and I don't want to spend the extra time to try and learn how to configure them. So they're installed, and I'll think about it at some point and see if I want to get back to actually spending the effort to try and learn how to adjust the audio. I'm not sure I actually installed the ones I wanted to work anyways. The de-esser and the big bottom effect in particular was what I was hoping for, and I didn't see anything labeled as de-esser. I was hoping it would just install and work and not cause any kind of audio problems whatsoever, which was asking quite a lot. But now I'm on my Twitter feed. Borderlands 3 is going to release a hotfix to address some audio concerns. And let's see. There's Drone Ranger Mayhem 2.0 modifier apparently makes either something offensive or just dangerously loud. So they're disabling that with their hotfix. And let's see. Kawa Games trademarks a game called Relayer and Shinwa Wars in Japan. And Bandai Namco trademarks a game called Ultra Impact. We'll talk about that more on Wednesday. I imagine there won't be too many things that happened. So, was it better to start streaming today at 10 versus 6 or 7 in the morning? Not really. If anything, I probably overslept and then am just sleepy or tired because of that. I don't really feel like I was, but yeah, I'm not really having a lot to say and not moving very fast. Let's see. Bethesda donates $1 million to COVID-19 relief efforts. They should. I can't even really give Bethesda props for that, considering on all the other terrible things Bethesda has done over the past 5 years or so. That's not enough good press by most people's standards. Let's see. Robert Kirkman's company sues Disruptor Beam for $690,000. That seems like it has something to do with the Bad Walking Dead game. Apparently there's a video out there that has all the cutscenes for The Last of Us 2 that have been leaked. So be careful out there if you want to avoid spoilers for The Last of Us 2. Although I don't think there's really much of a story they couldn't be guessed that's going to happen anyways. Magic the Gathering is adapting their technology, and that means they are sunsetting Planeswalker Points and removing access to the Planeswalker Points website. It also might be an indication that they are done with focusing on Planeswalkers as the new big thing. I think companions are the new big thing now, and they're not going to promote companions as much as Planeswalkers or guarantee that there always will be new companions in every new expansion. But I do think companions helped changed up the game a lot more than Planeswalkers did, where Planeswalkers' concepts of their loyalty points is not super different than having a toughness and having an attack ability. Author Digital nets $5.5 million to open a new studio called Adept Games. I don't know if Adept Games is a particularly great name for a game company. Half of these game companies expect to be acquired in the first 10 years anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter what your name is too much. Let's see. Yeah, and we are already back to 3 hours ago when we started streaming this as far as my Twitter feed is concerned, so there's not any new news. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below, and if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.